we have learned about AWT. AWT is sufficient enough to develop any graphical user interface based program. However, Java developer was not so happy with the AWT. They dreamed to give something more than AWT, which should be more elegant and then user friendly, I should say rather programmer friendly. That means, programmer will find it so easy to include those components into their program, and that is basically the process of it is called that in a lightweight way to develop this thing. I mean, without much of the code details they can develop their window program. So, with this aim, Java developer introduced from version 6 onwards another utility package API, it is called the Java Swing. So, in today's lecture we will discuss first part of the Java Swing, because it is so vast that we should take at least 2 modules to cover the entire package one by one. So, first we will discuss about exactly what is the swing. As I told you, Java developer introduced it in version 6 onwards, but version 5 and up lower version Java Swing was not available. Now, Java Swing is basically a part of Java foundation classes, which is the one foundation programs. It is developed usually the Oracle to make the Java Swing is more platform independent. So, Java Swing in fact provides a better lightweight components than AWT. In the sense, lightweight means we understand that a programmer can do many things without knowing exactly how all those things being done. That means, we do not have to bother about the implementation details, only just idea is that if this thing is available, just use it and then solve your problem. So, it is just like a good very sensitive library, we can say very sensible library rather. Okay. So, that we can get many different utilities easily, comfortably. Now, so Java, that is the swing. This swing is included in one package. You see, it is not exactly same as the Java dot package name like, but it is the new thing JavaX dot swing. So, JavaX dot swing package is there. It is again okay, whenever you install JDK, right, with your latest version, then you will be able to automatically install. It is bundled with JDK itself. Now, this JavaX Swing package contains many components, as we have already familiar to some components like button, text field, list, menu item like this, it is there. But whenever to make it difference from the swing component to AWT component, then they use basically one more capital characters prepon to each component, like say JButton is for button in swing, J text field is a text field in swing, and like this one. So, a J characters are prepon to each component to indicate that it is from the swing actually. So, now all those buttons are there. Obviously, question that arises, then what is the difference from this button to JButton or like this, and why JButton is more preferable than the button. We will able to understand these things when we will start our discussion about the swing component. Definitely, it has more advantages, and first of all the thing is that all the components that will appear in an interface looks much elegant than the component that we can develop using AWT. Anyway, so there are some salient difference between the two things, that is AWT and swing. The first thing is that AWT components are platform dependent. This means that Java environment is required in order to run all those things. No other environment you can use it. However, Java Swing is platform independent. Whatever be the environment, absolutely you do not have to bother, you can use it. And AWT components are heavyweights. Heavyweights mean many things that you have to write the codes of your own, and they are much abstract rather, whereas swing components is much more abstract than the AWT components. This means that you do not have to bother about how all those things come in and then how all those things will be implemented. You just simply plug and play, and AWT does not support pluggable look and feel. That means whatever the idea that it looks like, it is really coming is not like that. So, sometimes it shows something, it is appearing in a different form like, but it is basically pluggable look and feel. So, what exactly it looks like, you can find it like that. AWT provides less component compared to the Swing, because it has only few. However, Swing provides many more components than the AWT components, such as table, list, then scroll pans, tab pan, and then color boxer, then table pan, etc. All those things are not there in AWT, but those are there here in Java Swing. And another advantage of having the Java Swing is basically they follow one concept in graphical user interface programming is called the model view controller. So, it is basically called MVC. Actually, AWT does not follow MVC, the model view controller, whereas Swing follows MVC. I don't want to discuss details about the MVC, which is not so much relevant to this discussion. Anyway, this is the one way how the graphical user interface can be developed. Now, Java is basically from the JFC, JFC developed by the Oracle Java Foundation classes for developing the graphical interface related to Oracle systems. So, it is from the JFC only, and then here is basically whatever the different classes are there. So, for the Swing package is concerned, we have shown here, as we see here, as it is like. So, J component is basically related to the component, it is very same as the AWT components, and in addition to these things there is a container, and then container has a panel and then frame and all these things, and other than thing dialog is there, and container may be also an applet. So, it is the basic idea, and that is basically called the Swing components. Okay. So, Swing components basically, as you see, the J component is basically subclass of the components. That means, whatever the facilities that is available in AWT, you can have it here in Swing. That means, both Swing and AWT can be used together, you can use any one. So, that is why the idea it is there. So, they are all basically subclass of the AWT component component class that is there in AWT package, and that is why whenever you have to use it, we should import java.awt.star as well as javax.swing.star. That means, to avail all the facilities that is there, and particularly the event handling facilities are defined there in AWT itself. So, that anyway you have to use AWT package, while whether you use AWT or in addition to AWT you use Swing. So, this is the idea about the basic about the classes that is there. Now, we will discuss about the different components that is there in Swing, as it is there is a large number of components as you have told. So, definitely it will take much time to discuss all the components. So, I will be little bit fast about, I am just showing what exactly the component it looks, and then what are the methods, and then what are the other constructors that is there. This is for your information. So, my suggestion would be that if you practice it with the example which is here given in the slides as well as in the link that I have given, and also you can practice any program collecting from any other sources from net like, and if you practice it, if you run them, then you can understand. Actually, it is very difficult to learn from the very scratch level, rather in the very in depth. So, better idea would be to learn it by your own practice. So, you have to practice it vigorously so that you can learn it. Now, first of all, the component class that is there, as you have already familiar to, it has few methods like say add component. So, if you use the add, any component can be added into some other, either it is in a frame or it can be added into the applet like this one. And it also has the set size method, we have already familiar to that, and set layout and set visible. Those methods are already there, and those methods should be also used in whenever you include some Java Swing component in our program. And the Java Swing is basically first is that okay, we will discuss about how the components can be added from more precisely the Java Swing component can be added into our program. There are mainly 3 ways. I am giving you using a frame we can add it. So, in this example as we see, we create a frame, and in this frame we can add the thing. This is the most simplest way. On the other hand, we can create another way also by using the constructor, and here is one thing you can see. In this example, we create a frame, and then this frame is basically using a constructor of this class, which is basically the main program. There we can include it, and then that constructor can be called for that. So, this is the one way of doing these things, is basically same impact. So, this is the one way within the main program without any creating subclass we can do it, but here creating a subclass we can do it and then you can use it. So, this is more useful, because if you develop one and then same class can be used in some other program also. This is an example like, and another way, the third way, it is basically is extending the frame. It is almost the same as the previous one. What is that? Okay, this is basically class extends the frame, and then the same way it is like this one. So, basically whether you can inherit a frame or not, in that case this basically program is limited to only frame. But in the previous example, you can create a frame, you can add it, you can create other maybe panel, you can add something into that panel or something else like. So, whatever the way you want to have it, you can do it. So, these are the different way that we will follow. We usually follow to include the swing components in our program anyway. So, any one method you can use it, but for the demonstration or for the illustration we will consider the second method that we have discussed. Okay, so these are the different way the frame, the Java swing component can be added into the frame, and we will discuss the different classes one by one. The first is JButton. JButton is basically, as you have already familiar to this, it is similar to that, but in addition to the concept that is there, it has something different than the previous one. As you can see, it is here. So, JButton icon, as you can see, this is basically default without any label, and this is basically a button which will appear with certain label on it, and this is basically one important icon I, where icon is a class that is defined in the java.graphics.image, and in that icon is basically shows an image. That means a button can includes an image. So, this is the idea about this one. So, that means a button can include nothing, a button can include simple a text as a label, a button can include as an image also. So, here is an example as a simple button. As you see, this button is created and floated on a frame, and then label of the button is click here, and then another button it is here, as you see here text field, and then the button is also can be just here. Here basically the idea it is that if we click here and then this text field will appear. So, this is basically ActionListener. So, what I want to say here is that all the event handling routine that we have already learned also equally applicable to it also. That means add ActionListener, and then we can define the listener methods, all these things. As we see here in this program, we do the same thing, we add ActionListener for the button, and then we define the method for that action perform, and then basically here is that whenever a button is clicked, it will appear this kind of text. So, so whatever the action handling mechanisms we have already learned, that they can be applicable to this also. And this example indicates that a button can include an image. As you see, an image is also there on the button itself. So, there are many small images can be embedded into the button to give some more good feeling and good looking. Now, J label, same as the AWT label, is basically same. There is no as such different. It has 4 different constructors, and also it has 5 different methods for accessing it, or related to the J label. We can have the different information by virtue of all these methods it is there, and this is an example. As you see, it basically display 2 levels, first level and second level. The methods is almost same, AWT which we have already discussed. So, I do not want to elaborate it. Same thing is there, and then again any event can be added into this level as we have seen here. So, we can type it something, and then if we type it, then that button you can use it and then to have many other things are there. So, it is action listening, all this performance also added, can be added to every component as we have discussed. JText field is much similar to the same text field, it is there, and this is an example of the text field area, it is there, and it has so many constructors, 4 constructors and then 4 methods. And here is an example, as you see, is very similar to the same example as AWT. This program includes 2 text field with default state welcome to IIT Kharagpur and AWT tutorial like. And then action also can be added into any program like. So, here also another example JText field with certain action added into there. Here is basically if you type something in this example, if we type something say 5 and 10 and then plus you can add, so 15 will appear. So, here is basically 3 text fields which is initially empty, but we have added event. So, that if we type something here and there and then add it, then result will be automatically come into this text field. So, the idea it is like this. So, action can be added in this. So, you can understand that how these kind of things can be utilized in your actual application. Okay, so, so this is the text field example that we have discussed, is an example, and then text area also similar to the text area that we have discussed in the context of AWT. It looks like that. It has 4 different methods and then 4 different constructions and 5 different methods, and this is a very simple example, the text field area that will come here like this. And action listening can be also added with action listener, how the text field will work, it is shown there. Here is basically in this action listener, one very important thing that you can note, it is very interesting. So, this is basically your text area. In this text area you can add some type, cut and paste also you can do, no issue, and then there is a button we have used it which basically count words. Now, if we click it, then automatically all this word count and then character count will come. Now, how it is there, you do not have to write any explicit code for that. You see what is the code, it is here. So, set text, the L1 and L2 are the 2 level, L1 and L2, and then L1 dot set text words, this plus words dot length. That means here this words dot length already defined in the Java.AWT till how the lengths, how many words are there in a text can be calculated. Similarly, text dot length also, this is a method which will return how many characters are there in this text. So, it will display there. So, it is so easy, we do not have to do much programming actually, you do not have to count how many words with a very critical program, as you know probably in C or whatever it is other programming language. So, counting character also not that okay you have to scan one by one for the entire text, it is just simply the simple method that will help to do it very efficiently, very effectively. So, this is the different application that okay which is coming in my mind to explain, then I have just mentioned it. And then password field, this is a new one item which was not there in AWT components, and you know the password is basically usually look like it appear as a some wild character like there start. So, it hides the actual character that you have typed it. So, this look like a text field area only, but it will appear with that kind of things are there. Now, so the password field constructor can be defined using these are the 4 constructors, and it does not have any method. And then this is a very simple example by which you can see, you can practice it, that how a password field can be included in your frame, and this is an example that you can find if you run this program. And action listening also can be added there. That means, after getting the password field you can verify that whether this is the correct password or not, and then to verification you have to store, you have to compare this thing with some stored value somewhere else like. So, all these things you can do it here, username, password, username may be text field and password may be say password field, and then login, if you click it then whatever the things that you have typed it, login will be there. So, here you have to write a event handling methods for login whenever a user click the button login after giving text field login and then password field password. So, this is the example that you can see. Here is username Devashish, password is something as it is there corrected. In this case we have just simply that value we have correctly read from the user interaction and then you can print it. Now, checkbox is J checkbox is similar to the AWT checkbox, and as you see the checkbox is basically with some option 1. So, in this example as you see, this is the basically checkbox. It has the 3 items, and then we can click. Here multiple click is also possible or single click is also possible, that you have to define it by means of its appropriate constructor, whether you have to do the single click or you have to do the multiple click. And it has the 4 constructors and 2 methods only, and this is a simple example how the J checkbox can be done using a single multiple click. C++ and Java are the 2 checkbox choices in the checkbox is included, and it looks like that. And J radio button we have already familiar with the AWT, it is also there, but here the looks of the J button is much more elegant than the AWT, and this is an example of a radio button. It is a button group, actually the object that you have to create it, and it has the 3 constructors, and these are the so many methods as you see. And then this is a simple example, and if you implement this example, you can find this kind of output that you can find it, and this is a self explanatory. So, it has basically 2 radio buttons, as you can see, one is A male and then B female, and then you can select any one, whichever you select it will be highlighted by a button prompt. And this is the example, you can add more buttons and then you can run it and you can find it how it will appear. And then J combo box, it is just similar to the list items there in the AWT. And here in this example, as we see 2 combo box 1 and combo box 2 is created, and in the combo box 1 there may be some items, and in the combo box 2 also some items. So, as many as combo box can be included in any frame or any applets also, and then any one items can be selected. Which item you select, that item will appear in the text field area in the main combo box slide. And these have 3 constructors, and then there are 5 methods declared in it, and this is a simple example for your practice. You can run it, then you can find it that this is the one combo box that will appear in your program. Now, Java Swing J table, and this is a new one addition compared to the AWT. It was not there in AWT, but it is here. Now, this class J table is basically showing how the entire table can be displayed. So, if there is a table already stored in your machine in a memory, then that table can be displayed here. But I have just these are for the creating J table, it has only 2 constructors, and then this is a simple program by which we can display one table. Here we have just created a table in program itself, and as you see this table has 3 rows, and then column heading is ID, name, and then salary. And the table will look like this as you see here. So, it is like this. So, here the table is just for an example we have, but you can create a set of objects having their different fields, and then we can get the value and then we can put in the table, and then table can be displayed. JList is also similar to the list actually, and we do not have to discuss much about, because it is in many ways very similar to AWT list. It has 3 constructor, 4 methods, and this is a simple program. You should practice it. Here actually it shows a list with 4 items, it is defined there. And J option pan, it is also a new thing which was not there in AWT. J option pan is basically a dialog, pop-up dialog box, or sometimes it is called the message box. Whenever you made some mistake, automatically Windows pop up with a message box or window actually. So, if you want to create any window like this with certain messages, then this is the right way, and if you select OK, then means you have accepted, and if you select stop this view, then you can do it. So, this is the way the option pan can be created. There are 3 constructors and then few methods are there, and this is an example to create a simple option pan with a message hello, welcome to IIT OK like. So, it is okay. Sometimes time to time you have to give a message to your user, then you can use the J option pan. And then J scroll bar is similar to the scroll bar that is there. So, it is basically same thing, horizontal and vertical scroll bar can be created. There are 3 constructors to create a scroll bar, and here is a simple example by which one scroll bar can be created. It is a vertical scroll bar that we have created. Likewise, horizontal scroll bar with more animation and everything can be also done. J menu bar is very similar to J menu bar is also a new thing which was not there in AWT. It is basically, as you see, this is the menu bar actually this is the menu bar. If you click it, some other sub menu will appear like this one. So, there are many menu bar also can be included in your program, and this is the idea about the J menu bar. For this J menu bar, there is again few constructors are there. So, usually J menu bar and J menu are related to each other. So, I will just give an idea about J menu bar, which is basically includes some J menu, and there is also a J menu item. So, this is an example. As you see here, it basically includes menu items 1 and I2, and then it basically shows there. And as you know, for menu item there may be sub menu. So, it is sub menu, under sub menu, all these things. So, those things can be clear. So, this program you can practice for your own understanding. And then finally, the J pop-up menu. J pop-up menu is basically is a whenever something is appear, the menu will pop up like, and it is look like this. So, pop-up menu, whenever you create it, and then some menu will appear. It has two constructor, as you see here, one constructor without any argument, another is with string argument. And here is a simple example that you can see. This example, as you see, whenever something's clicked, so it will basically a pop-up menu will appear. This is the pop-up menu, and then you can select any one, cut, copy, paste, like. As probably you know, whenever you use some Word or some other text editing document, and whenever you have to select the edit, and then usually cut, copy, paste, all these things are there. So, it is just similar, the idea is very similar to that concept only. So, this is the pop-up menu, and then Java Swing checkbox menu. Checkbox menu item is very similar to the checkbox menu, checkbox concept. There is the AWT class. It is basically under the component class in the other. It has the so many constructors, is a little bit complex to use it. And then this is an example. So, this example is okay, you can see here in this example we have added many things, button, then JFrame, menu, menu bar, menu item in the same example, and also action handling event is also used here. So, you can okay, verify this algorithm, this program, and then you can check that how it is working. So, it is just look like the checkbox menu item, file, and file, open, close, save, save as, all these things you can add it. So, this is the part of the program that you can run it. Anyway, so we have discussed about the Swing components, not the all components. There are few more components are there, and from this understanding probably you have heard about that the Swing is a new one compared to the AWT, which was very old. And using the Swing components, we can build many other, we can include many elements, many components into our programs, which was not possible in AWT. There are few more or components also that we are yet to discuss. So, those things will be discussed in our next module. Thank you very much.